The second option for binding your final project is the accordion book. So let's jump in on this adventure. The accordion books fold in and on themselves, sort of like a zigzag, or if you think of the old-timey instrument, accordion, that's where the name comes from. They're fairly easy to make, so here we go. Okay, for this binding, like the stab binding, we need to create a new template. We need to have an extra inch on the left-hand side of the finished print. Therefore, make a template that has an extra inch on the right-hand side, like you see here. In this case, that extra inch on the left-hand side will be used for gluing one print to another. Other than your completed and dry prints, you'll need a ruler, a folding bone, or something similar. So a case knife, plastic knife, anything hard that you can rub up against the paper, pencils, and some scrap sheets of newsprint, anything that's clean that you can use and is disposable, and glue. I'm just using Target brand. I think I paid 70 cents for it, washable school glue. You'll need a container to pour it into and a brush. I'll show you how easy it is to use the brush to get the glue to go down clean and evenly in making this book. Okay, the first thing we want to do is we actually want to mark that inch on the edge of all the prints. That's going to help us know where to mark and where to apply glue. So I'm using my ruler, making a tick mark at top and bottom for 1 inch in, and then I'm just going to lightly create a line along there. So here you go, you can see it, that 1 inch line up and down on each print. Okay, once that first one is done, then I've got to get them all marked. Now I have a lot more than you do, but still take your time and carefully mark 1 inch in on each print on the left-hand side. Okay, once you've got that done, then you're ready to start the gluing process. So here I am squeezing my glue into my jar. I've got those scrap sheets of paper ready to go. And notice I've also grabbed a wet paper towel. I want to make sure I use that to keep glue off of my hands and my working surfaces. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to take the first print and I'm going to set it aside. I don't need it for now. So again, the first print gets set aside. Then I'm going to grab the second print and set that down on my clean sheet of paper. So again, the first print is set aside. It's the second one that I'm going to start gluing with. So I'm grabbing my brush, wiping off the excess glue, and now I'm going to start applying it. Okay, so now I'm using my brush, grabbing a little bit more glue and filling in that 1 inch tab that I drew on the second print with the glue. I want a nice even coverage, and now you can see why you need that scrap sheet of paper. It catches the excess glue because you need to get it all the way to the edge on all 3 sides. All right, so you can see it's nice and even, a nice clean sheen to it. Okay, once I have the glue in place, I'm moving the print over, and I'm going to take that first print and overlap it over that tab. I'm going to take a few seconds, really take my time, line it up. First hit it with my hands and a little pressure, then I'll grab my folding bone, or you can grab a plastic knife or kitchen knife and just gently rub over this front and then flip it over and do the back. So after I've rubbed that down, I'm going to come back to my scrap paper and I'm going to fold over that glue area. So notice that I folded over, and so that glue is now trapped, and I'm not going to make a mess on the next print. So now I'm grabbing the third print and I'm going to repeat the process, grabbing some glue with my brush, brushing it on all through that 1 inch tab that I've created, and making sure I get glue all the way to the 3 edges. So once I've applied this glue nice and evenly, I'm ready to move on to massaging it in place yet again, or burnishing it down, whichever way you want to think of it. So lots of glue on there and a nice even, it's not dripping wet, I should say. Then I'll take the print, lay it down in my clean area, line up the other print, and grab my burnisher and give it some pressure. Okay, let's go over some tips. 1, take your time and line things up and give it a good burnish front and back. 2, if you notice any glue has seeped out, definitely wipe it out as soon as possible. It's really important to remove any excess glue as soon as you notice it, if it's on your hands, the folding bone, or the table, so it doesn't get on other surfaces. So take your time and do that. Also, take your time and line things up. If you realize something is off, you can gently slide it back into place. No worries, you've got some time before the glue will dry. Okay, so once you have all of your pages glued together, I recommend that you let them dry a little bit. If you're feeling confident there's no excess glue on the front or back, you can lay them on a clean surface and place some books on top, just like I've done here. And Rocky is supervising just to make sure I did it correctly. This will make sure the glue dries well and that everything is nice and flat. Let those pages dry for at least an hour or even longer. Overnight is absolutely fine, but don't let the glue dry in your brush. So now's a good time to run to the kitchen or bathroom sink, use cold water and some soap, and thoroughly clean your brushes so they'll stay in good shape. Okay, once things have dried, now is the time to start to create the accordion zigzag in my book. So I'm taking my ruler and butting it up against the edge of the overlap where the one sheet is on top of the other. Then I'm scoring. So what do I mean by scoring? I'm actually taking the folding bone and pushing really hard into the paper so it bends the fibers. Then I can fold the paper over. So once I've folded the paper over, I'm going to just double check things are lined up and then take the folding bone, or you can use a butter knife or a plastic knife for this, and just hit it with some pressure so that that cleanly folds. Once I've got one done, I'll keep going on to the next. Each time I create a score, again, I'm giving it some pressure, some elbow grease, if you will, and I'm alternating whether the fold goes in or out. Now, I've got a lot of paper here. That's the problem with making a long one, but you can see how I'm having print-faced print, and the back side will just be those blank sheets of paper with the tab. Okay, let's watch that again, this time at warp speed. So you can see as I'm working, I'm scoring first and then alternating that kind of zigzag in and out to make the accordion book. And here, let's just watch it one more time so that you can see how that comes together. Again, the goal here is that the prints are always facing each other, and accordion in and out. So once everything is folded up, here is the accordion book. And as you can see, it has that in and out. So the folds alternate in the direction that they go. One will go in, the next will go out, so on and so forth. But I feel like I want to add a paper cover to it. You don't have to, but let's jump right in. So in order to make a cover, I need to know how thick my book is when it's folded up. So what I did is I just did that. I folded it and I sat it on the edge of the table and held my ruler up to see exactly how tall I need to make the spine of the book be. So here's the measurement. Then I created this little strange template. Sorry, it won't let me flip this the right way. But what this is one measurement, the exact size of the book page, which is about 10 1/4, a measurement for that spine, 7 8 of an inch, and then another distance of the book page. Okay, let me go over that one more time just to make sure you see what it is. So we have the folio for the book cover. It's 2 page sizes of the book with that spine distance that I measured earlier right in between, and I've made lines for them both. This also let me double check my measurements. I drew the diagram first and then put it on paper. So once I have that sheet of paper cut and measured out, I'm going to again score the paper. So I'm grabbing the folding bone, lining the ruler up, and I'm going to score really thoroughly along that line that I drew for the spine, and I'm going to do that again on the other side. So after I've scored things well, now I can actually fold it into the folio shape. And this might actually look rather familiar to you, right? It seems to suggest a traditional book, a codex that you're used to seeing. And then my accordion book will fit right inside of that. Okay, now I'm ready to glue things in place. So the first thing I'm going to do is line everything up, and this is actually referred to as setting the block into the book. So I just took a few seconds to do that before I do anything else. So if you remember, when we started gluing things, we set the first print to the side, and so there was an extra inch on that print that had no glue on it yet. You can see here I folded it over, and I'll use it to glue the book to the cover. If you don't want to add a cover to your book and just want the simple accordion, you can very carefully trim that extra inch off so that you have a clean edge. The cover option is totally up to you. Okay, so let's talk about how to glue the book into the cover. So you can see I've took a scrap sheet of paper and put it in between the sheet of the book and that tab. And once again, I am carefully applying the glue to that tab. This is all very familiar, right? You've done this before. Once I've done that, I'm going to remove that gluey sheet of paper out of the way. Now that that glued sheet of paper is out of the way, I'll grab a scrap sheet of paper to slide it underneath just in case any glue comes out, and then I'll actually carefully close the book and give it a little bit of pressure first with my hand before I do anything else. I'll double check that everything is lined up and then open the book, grab my bone folder, and give it a good burnish. And again, just like before, I'll give it a good burnish on one side. Then I'll carefully open up the book, move that sheet of paper out of the way, and then burnish it even more on this back side. I definitely want to make sure this stays. So gluing is about pressure and the adhesive that we use. So burnishing is really important throughout this entire book process. So once I'm done with that, I'll grab a little bit of weight and let it dry. A heavy. Okay, there you have it. That's how you make an accordion book with or without a cover. Look forward to seeing yours.